It's telang flower, ginger, lemon.
Terima kasih banyak.
Sama-sama.
Andaz Bali is one of those properties that sneaks up on you, and in the best possible way. I was aware from the moment I walked in that the Andaz is a lovely resort. That much comes through in the design and the landscaping. But it wasn't until part of the way through my stay that I realized it's more than lovely. It's special. No, the resort is not without its flaws, but perhaps the real fatal flaw of Andaz Bali is that eventually you'll have to leave. Hey, this is JR, aka The Tourist. I'm in Sanur, Bali, at the Andaz. Stay with me a few minutes and I'll tell you all about it. I arrived the Andaz by way of a buggy ride, having spent the night prior at the Hyatt Regency just next door. The two resorts sit side by side in the low-key coastal village of Sanur. For those familiar with Nusa Dua, think of Sanur as similar, but with a narrower beach and a wider assortment of things to do. Sanur is popular with expat families and with retirees. The opening of Andaz Bali in 2021 coincided with the post-pandemic reopening of Bali itself, and Bali is definitely reopened. So much so that many cite it as a textbook case of over-tourism. But over-tourism is a hyper-local phenomenon. Some parts of the island are overrun, others are quiet. Sanur sits somewhere in the manageable middle. The entrance into the Andaz is quiet, intimate, understated. You're greeted through a somewhat deconstructed check-in process. I'll talk about what I paid in a moment, but for now I'll say the rates at Andaz, while not at the ultra-luxury level, are not cheap. At this price point, some will expect their arrival to be a bigger deal. Hotel staff are warm and gracious, but they're not blowing trumpets or showering you with rose petals. Whether that's good or bad is a matter of personal preference. If I'm being honest, at the time, I found check-in a little haphazard and underwhelming, though I realize now this is part of the overall experience of Andaz. Arriving the Andaz Bali feels like coming to see family or old friends. Again, this place sneaks up on you. I arrived just before 1. My room wasn't ready, but there was a lounge serving light refreshments and where I was able to do a bit of work. I didn't have to wait long for my room. Come along and we'll have a look. The heart of Andaz Bali is the village square. So let's take a stroll through on the way to the room. After coming from the Hyatt Regency, what struck me most at Andaz was how quiet it is, almost eerily so. Partly, this was due to a big corporate meeting going on, which I assume kept its attendees occupied most of the day. The one time the resort did feel busy was at breakfast, when all of those attendees were out in force. There were moments I appreciated the quiet and moments I wished the resort felt a little more happening. How about you? Do you prefer a resort that's bustling, deathly quiet, or somewhere in between? I'll return to this topic later. I'll point out that 4 of the resort's 5 food and beverage outlets are located here. While they all operate as individual restaurants, they do a combined service for breakfast. Hyatt Hotels occupies a key place in the history of Bali tourism. The Bali Hyatt opened in 1973, one of the first internationally branded resorts on the island. That property closed, but in 2018 it reopened as the Hyatt Regency Bali. The Andaz is the sophisticated neighbor next door. Andaz is one of Hyatt Hotels' luxury brands, but its brand identity emphasizes an eclectic, boutique style over the formal trappings of luxury. The informality of the check-in process is a reflection of this ethos, as is the design of the property, which is a modern take on the kampung or Indonesian village, with the resort centered around this central square and all of the buildings clustered around their own courtyards or pools. We leave the village square by this central walkway that runs all the way back to the beach. Heading into the resort, the feelings of calm and tranquility intensify. Along with the traditional design elements, the architects and designers emphasize the use of local building materials, but all within the context of a modern resort. To quote Yoshiro Koichi of Spin Studio, we also incorporated contrast into the appeal and personality of Andaz Bali. Contrast is the idea of old and new. It's different from the new and modern architectural design based on the traditional style. The interior design generates new energy by expressing and contrasting the passage of time with the old Balinese culture and history. The concept of old and new adds an artistic and unique feeling to Andaz Bali, making it unique compared to the neighboring Hyatt Regency. I booked a King Deluxe room, which is the entry-level room category, but I believe I was upgraded to an ocean view room. My rate included breakfast, and at check-in, staff informed me there was a complimentary happy hour as well. Depending on the time of year, the rate differences between the room categories can be quite reasonable, so I suggest if you have a preference, then go ahead and book that room category. If not, it's unlikely you'll find any of the rooms disappointing. The rooms are all housed in these two-story buildings with thatch roofs. In this case, the building holds 2 rooms upstairs and 2 ocean view rooms up top. Welcome to room 3203. Walking into the room is perhaps the moment it hits me. I'm somewhere special. I stay at a lot of hotels filming these videos. I'm nowhere near jaded when it comes to travel, but most of my hotel stays are average. When a property cuts through and makes a big impression on me, I'm always happy. And I'm happy to share it with you. If you'd like to be with me for more of these moments, subscribe to the channel. I post hotel impressions, destination guides, and more. And I'm just getting started. Join me, and we'll tour the world together. The room is one of those areas where the use of traditional materials and patterns really comes through, and in a very tasteful way. Generally, I've noticed 2 dominant design aesthetics in Bali. One traditional, white walls and wood trim. The other more contemporary, but usually leaning into the minimal and chic. My room at the Andaz manages to feel quite contemporary, but in a more interesting way. At the same time, it's quite rooted in the location. It's kind of a subtle Balinese maximalism. There's a coffee machine and a rather nice tea service. At Andaz, most of the offerings in the minibar are complimentary and are refilled once daily. The alcohol, though, is chargeable. You would think the dark stone might make the bathroom too dark, but it's light enough. Although I'm a man and I don't wear makeup, so those who do might say otherwise. There is a large walk-in closet with a window granting plenty of light. Overall, the room feels roomier than it ought to, especially being dominated by the large bed. Maybe it's because there's very little dead space. Everything feels like it's where it ought to be. Hey, so I checked into the hotel. I haven't had much of a look around. I don't think it's that big. There's a lobby lounge right next to where the reception is, and I set up shop there and did a little bit of work right after I checked in and waited for my room. I gotta say, just, my initial impression, based just off the room, quick look around the property, is that this place is great. I really like it. It helps that I just come from the Hyatt Regency and spent a night in a room that, I gotta say, it's the entry-level 5-star premium version of this product here, which is the luxury version of that product. So having a chance to compare them one night after the other is really helpful. To put it in perspective, this room here is about 2.5 times the room rate, the Hyatt Regency. And again, just based on my initial impression, I don't feel like I've wasted any money at all. By the way, Andaz is one of those properties where everything in the minibar, except for alcohol and maybe a couple of other things, are not chargeable. So that means free sparkling water. Obviously, I'll have more to say after I've had a chance to check the place out. Right now, I'm gonna leave the hotel and go into Sanur and do a couple of things there, shoot some scenes for my How to Spend a Day in Sanur video. Keep an eye out for that. The easiest way to do that is just to subscribe to the channel, but I won't tell you what you already know. When I come back, I'm going to try out the happy hour, and then I've got dinner reservations at the seafood restaurant. I'll check in with you after that. Happy hour happens back at the Village Square. It starts at 4 p.m., but I was out running around filming in Sanur and didn't sit down for a drink until close to last call at 7. If you're interested in seeing what the town is like, stay tuned for my 24 hours in Sanur video. The happy hour service includes unlimited drinks and small dishes. Owing to the late hour and the fact that I had dinner reservations at 7:30, I only had the one drink, a very good espresso martini to help keep me awake. Sanur is known for seafood, and so I've decided to dine at Fisherman's Club, the Andaz seafood restaurant located back by the beach. There's a display of the daily catch as well as the tanks. Choose what you like and the chefs will prepare to order. Dinner was quite good, but happy hour and dinner were one of those times I would have appreciated a livelier feeling. Of course, the hotel's location in Sanur does offer a few nightlife options. Good evening. It's actually a bit past evening. I should be in bed so I can get up early and go and film the grounds before other people get up. But I just really like this room. I like spending time in this room. So I filled up the bath. I'm gonna hop in, get a little bit of a soak. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll go check out the rest of the property and we'll talk. I'll sum up my thoughts at the end of the video. As Sanur sits on the eastern shore, I awoke to the sunrise. The perfect start to the day and the perfect prompt to go out and continue exploring the property together. We'll start with breakfast. On the way, let's talk about whether Andaz Bali is the resort for you. I have a beef to pick with you YouTubers. Okay, not all, but some. No hate here, I get it. The algorithm rewards simplicity and hyperbole, and so it's common to describe every nice resort as luxury and quote-unquote best in town. There are of course different ways to characterize and rate hotels. For simplicity's sake, I divide properties into 3 categories. There are entry-level 5-star properties, which I refer to as premium. There are the properties that are squarely in the luxury category, and then there are the ultra-luxury properties. Some properties simply are what they are, but others outperform their category. Andaz Bali is one. Of course, not all properties are for all people, so without further ado, I'll give you the tourists' do's and don'ts. Do come to Andaz Bali if you want to be in Sanur, a place with some nightlife, but nothing like crowded Kuta or Seminyak on the west coast. Do stay at Andaz if you want a true luxury resort that overperforms toward the ultra-luxury. And do come here if you plan to hide out on property and take most of your meals here. Everything I ate was good, and the breakfast was one of the better hotel breakfasts I've ever had. On the other side of the coin, don't come to Sanur if you want a livelier atmosphere or a younger demographic. If you come here looking to party with 20-somethings, you'll be disappointed. Also, don't choose Andaz if you want a more conventional luxury experience, especially if you're looking for high-touch service. I have no complaints about the service, but it definitely trends toward the laid back. Don't come here if you're looking for a resort with more going on. I was surprised at how much I felt like I was completely alone here, despite the other guests and the busy beach walk just out back that we'll see in a moment. The spot between luxury and ultra-luxury will be a sweet spot for some. For others, it will be painfully obvious that it's neither a big fun resort with lots going on, nor is it an ultra-private luxury escape where you'll be constantly pampered and fawned over. Know this before you come here. I've long held a love for hotel breakfast buffets, but on this trip I stayed at 2 properties that offered all-you-can-eat a la carte menus instead. When done well, this may have replaced the buffet at the primary place in my heart. And the Andaz definitely does breakfast well. As I mentioned, the corporate meeting attendees were out in force when I arrived at breakfast. Quite the opposite from the dead calm of dinner the night before. Maybe too much so. But almost on cue, they all left for their day's activities, and I took my breakfast in peace. I had a nice assortment of fresh and savory items. Everything was great. My favorite was the omelet. By my count, there are 3 pools in the property open to all guests. There's the elite pool, which is the shallow kids pool, though I can't say I saw any kids using the pool while I was here. Most of the activity was around the main pool in the back. But let's skip that for a moment and head straight back to the beach and tackle this head on. As much as Bali has the image of a beach destination, the beaches aren't always picturesque. At the better resorts, staff do what they can to clean and manicure the beach, and Andaz does just that. Here's what the beach looks like during the day. The other thing to note is that beaches in Bali are public. Hotels can set up areas for their guests, but they can't restrict access. Personally, I think this is a good thing. But it does mean that vendors are free to ply their wares. Also, Sanur is known for its beach walk. It's the path running right outside the resort. Given how quiet the Andaz is most of the day, I was glad to have the beach walk right there. But it does mean a steady flow of foot traffic passing by the main pool area. As this is the quieter part of the beach walk, I never felt it was particularly disruptive. Plus, it gets most of its traffic in the mornings and evening when the weather's cool. During the day, the beach and pool area will feel quite calm and peaceful. The Andaz shares the spa and gym with the Hyatt Regency. I've chosen to include that area in the Hyatt Regency video, so do keep a lookout for that. For now, let's head back to the room for a few parting words. I'm all packed up, bags by the door, ready to check out. Can you see the sadness in my face? Very sad. Some hotels, resorts, you stay in and they're great. They do everything they're supposed to do and you have a good time. But some places are a little different and you just feel really comfortable there. I really am sad to be leaving because I enjoyed my time here and I hope it won't be too much longer before I manage to make it back. Hopefully next time with my family. Again, staying here right after having stayed at the Hyatt Regency next door really helped to put both properties into perspective for me. I really like the Hyatt Regency. It's great for what it is. But just being able to make that comparison has made me appreciate Andaz even more. And it also got me thinking that a great value or a great hack, whatever you want to call it, would be if you're spending a few days in Sanur, then maybe you spend the first couple of days over at the Hyatt Regency, and those are the days you go out and do active things, you do day trips, whatever. And then in the second half of the trip, when you just want to relax and spend a lot of time on property, come over here to the Andaz and do that here. That would be a great way to spend a few days in Sanur. Anyway, you've already heard my deeper thoughts on whether or not the Andaz is the property for you. So I'll just say that for me, yeah, I loved it. I loved it. Looking forward to coming back. If you've enjoyed the video or found it at all useful, then please take a moment and click that like button. That's all I got for now. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. Until next time. Thank you for staying with me to the end. This is my first video of 2025 and I'm excited for what's to come this year. Stay tuned and see for yourself.